Make sure you get your pens, papers. We're going to go over. If you're a beginner, let's try and take good notes and reflect on it. Let's open up with Colossians, the 2nd chapter. There are a lot of heresies regarding the books or writings of Paul. Actually, I don't want to start with Colossians. I want to start with Peter.
2 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. And account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you. As also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction.
So verse 16 is the key that we want. Regarding the letters of Paul, the Apostle Peter checked and read the writings of Paul. All right. Let me show you the proof. Go to Acts chapter, might be 21. Just popped into my mind.
The book of Acts, chapter 21, verse 18. And the day following, Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present. And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law. And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses.
Now I want you to look at verse 21 real carefully. Read 21 again.
Yes, sir. And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs.
Now this was based upon Paul's letters. Hold on, we're coming right back here. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And verse 19.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 19. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of God.
So there was a lot of confusion regarding Paul's writings. Like Peter warned you. He said Paul wrote things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrest. So I gave an example. Go back to Acts 21 and 21.
Acts chapter 21, verse 21. And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs.
So that's why we went to 1 Corinthians 7, just to show you an example. Paul said things like circumcision is nothing. So the Jews reading these letters was like, well, he's telling us to forsake Moses. So that was the confusion. But Paul wasn't saying that. He was saying if you're circumcised, it's nothing, and if you're uncircumcised, it's nothing. God wants both groups to keep the commandments. Okay, read.
What is it, therefore? The multitude must needs come together.
Meaning the multitudes of the Israelites must be on one accord. They're being informed that you're teaching them not to keep the laws of Moses. We need to come on one accord with what you're saying. Go ahead.
For they will hear that thou art come. Do therefore this that we say to thee. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. Them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads. And all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing.
They are nothing. Go back to 2 Peter 3:16, please.
2 Peter chapter 3, verse 16. And as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrest.
So, well, what I want y'all to see, as also in all his epistles, the word epistle means letters, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood. This is why, if you notice, Christians always go to the letters of Paul. When you say, well, let's see what Christ said, he spoke plain. No. We don't want Christ, what Christ said, like Creflo. He says the teachings of Christ belong in the Old Testament. He said, go to the letters of Paul. Why? Because Paul wrote things hard to be understood. These Christians know the average lay person don't understand the writings of Paul. You look at it, circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is, what is he talking about? They can twist Paul's writings any way they want, and that's what they do. And it was God had it set up like that for a reason. Verse 16 again.
2 Peter chapter 3, verse 16. As also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned.
They that are unlearned, meaning you have not studied the Old Testament. Because remember, these epistles wasn't written yet. When they were written, the only thing that came about so far was what? The Old Testament. Everything was based on that. So that's when he says, which they that are unlearned, go ahead.
And unstable rest.
Meaning struggle. The word rest means you struggle with the understanding. So Peter is saying, if you have not studied the Old Testament, you will not understand the writings of Paul. Go ahead.
As they do also the other scriptures.
As they do also the other scriptures, the Old Testament writings.
Unto their own destruction.
Which is, why is it unto their own destruction? Because you'll read in the Old Testament about, for example, circumcision. Then you'll read in the New Testament, circumcision is nothing. Then you go, I don't got to get circumcised. Hey, forget that law. Oh, praise, I ain't got to get circumcised. Really? That's what it means, unto their own destruction. Because now you've built a ministry on not keeping God's laws. I'll give another example. Give me the one in Romans 6. Grace. You know it, the famous one.
The book of Romans, chapter 6 and verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein?
So now that second verse, where I want the third word, where it says start from how. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? They will use something like that and go, see, we're all dead to sin. So that means we can't sin because we are dead to sin. Stupid stuff like that. Jump over to verse, watch this. Jump over to verse 15.
Verse 15.
No, 14.
Verse 14. For sin shall not have dominion over you.
That ain't the part we want. We want this next part. Go ahead.
For ye are not under the law, but under grace.
See, the law is done away with in Jesus. You don't have to forget the law. Just crumble the laws up and toss it in the ocean. We're in the grace, grace, grace. And in these Christian societies, Christian churches, you got every homosexual, every whoremonger, every lesbian, every secret drug addict running up and down in there. Pork eating, Christmas serving. Yeah, they're going. Today's Halloween. Yeah, they're going to be. Their kids going to be. It's for the children. Why? Because these filthy, lying Christians twist the letters of Paul, like Peter warned you. Like Peter warned you. So let's go to the book of Colossians.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 2. That their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and unto all riches of the full assurance of understanding.
So he's writing to the Colossians. Many times Christians say, oh, Paul wrote to the Gentiles, okay, meaning they'll assume that that means non-Israelites. Give me the Elisha. Give me that book. Okay, start. We see it says they accordingly.
Yes, sir.
I want all of y'all to pay close attention. And the books that we bring out, we're not saying that these books have 100% truth. The only thing with 100% truth is the Bible. But in these other books, there's certain things these quote-unquote scholars put together that makes reference to Scripture, and we will use that to God's advantage. Read that.
They accordingly promulgated a great anomaly, to use a mild term, and instead of trusting the Almighty to make clear his meaning in due time, they rushed to the conclusion that the blessings vouchsafed to Israel in the latter days were to be fulfilled, not to the literal, but to a spiritual Israel.
So the author's revealing that in these last days, Christianity, because that's what he's talking about, would have a spiritual Israel, where you get these non-Israelites come say, oh, all the blessings is for us. That's what he's explaining. It says the blessings were to be fulfilled in the latter days, were to be fulfilled, not to the literal, but to a spiritual Israel. That's your Seventh-day Adventists. They talk about spiritual Israel. Jehovah Witness, Baptists, all of them say spiritual Israel. Read.
This necessitated a further horrible assumption.
So a spiritual Israel doctrine would what? Further horrible assumption. Go ahead.
That the Almighty had withdrawn the promises which he sealed with an oath from the descendants of Jacob and had bestowed them upon quondam.
So y'all see that? It says this necessitated a further horrible assumption. That the Almighty had withdrawn the promises to the literal Israel, that's what he's talking about, which he sealed with an oath from the descendants of Jacob. So that's what that spiritual Israel does. They say, oh, no, it's not for real Israel anymore. It's for spiritual Israel. Read.
And had bestowed them upon quondam heathen races.
See that? And they bestowed all the blessings that was for Israel on many heathen races. Edomites, Moabites, Philistines, and Jebusites, and Ishmaelites. Go ahead.
Popularly known as Gentiles, to whom no such promises had been made.
Right. There's no promises to the Edomites. There were no promises to the Hamites, Moab, and Ammon. None of those foreign, which is the Chinese, Japanese, the Arabs, white man. The promises that were made to an oath was not to them. But now in these last days, I'm spiritual Israel. Go ahead.
And who had no claim to any consideration of a like nature.
See that? So the author is saying that these Gentile nations, the real Gentiles, had no claim whatsoever to any consideration of a like nature of the promises. Go ahead.
So far as revealed testimony is concerned, except after joining and forming part of the Commonwealth of Israel.
Because now they say, oh, we're part of the Commonwealth of Israel. That's what these Gentiles do. Go ahead.
This involved a further absurdity.
This involved a further absurdity. This is absurd. This is crazy. This is ludicrous. This is ridiculous. This is what the author's saying. Go ahead.
By the invention of the call of the Gentiles.
See that? By the invention of the call of the Gentiles, meaning the white man made that up. This is the call of the Gentiles. Go teach everybody. Everybody can be spiritual Israel. You got all these Christians running around with this invention. So they're letting you know man made up the call of the Gentiles. Go ahead.
This involved a further absurdity by the invention of the call of the Gentiles, which latter it
you're right, it's latter.
Which latter it was assumed were to take the place of, enjoy the promises to, and fulfill the assigned to the seed of Abraham and to that seed alone.
Do y'all see that right there? It said the absurdity is by the invention of the call of the Gentiles, spiritual Israel, anybody could come in, everybody's saved in Jesus. It says were to take the place of, that these Gentiles, it was assumed, were to take the place of, enjoy the promises to, and fulfill the assigned to the seed of Abraham and to that seed alone. So they took the place of Israel, real Israel. That's what he's saying. Read on. Raise it up, Alicia.
Thus were people taught, and so were they content to believe, in accordance with the assurance that the Anglo-Saxons were Gentiles. These were satisfied with the high position to which they had been raised as pseudo-Israelites.
See, they've been raised to pseudo-Israelites means spiritual Israel. Go ahead.
And stayed not to inquire whether these things were so.
They didn't study the scriptures. They inquire whether that's true or not. They just believe what society or the white man or these ministers teach. Go ahead.
It is scarcely reasonable to suppose, however, that any except literal Israelites should trouble themselves to inquire concerning the mystery of God's promises.
It's only literal Israel should be the ones inquiring about the mystery of God's promises. Go ahead.
Which, if read as expressed, could concern none but themselves. These very Israelites, however, had not only lost all sense of the importance of those promises to them, but had probably, in time, lost all remembrance of them.
So he's letting you know the Israelites would lose all knowledge of the promises of God. Go ahead.
If they had not even become oblivious to their own identity.
He's saying the real Israelites would lose their own identity. This is why Esau put together in the book, the real Israelites would forget who they are. Right, now our people think we African. I'm an Afro-American. I'm a Baptist. That's what he means, if they had not even become oblivious to their own identity. Who are you, black man, black woman, Latin man, Latin woman? I don't know. I'm a Puerto Rican. Oh, God. We've lost our minds. So now when we go to the book of Colossians, go back to Colossians 2.
Yes, sir.
Now that we have that thought, we had to lay the foundation with that. The Colossians were part of these Israelites, partly of whom had lost their identity, raised up in Greco-Roman culture. Verse 2 again.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 2. That their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love.
So our hearts must be comforted, being knit together in love. When it says being knit together in love, get that in 2 John 6, please.
Yes, sir.
Knit together in love. And this is what we as a people have not learned. Our hearts are not knit together in love at all. Our hearts is knit together in lust and filth, but not in love. Because this is what love is. Read that.
The book of John, 2 John, verse 6. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye shall walk in it.
So our hearts are supposed to be knit together in love, in God's laws, in God's commandments. But that's not so today. We are knit together in evil, knit together in lies. In fact, you know what? We ain't even knit together at all. We are not unified as a people. We're the most divided race you can imagine or find on the planet Earth. Go back to Colossians 2:2 again.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 2. That their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and unto all riches of the full assurance of understanding.
So in this truth, you got to come to the full assurance of understanding. Go ahead.
To the acknowledgement of the mystery of God.
And all of us should come to the acknowledgement of the mystery of God.
Of the mystery of God and of the Father and of Christ.
Read.
In whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge.
So the question is, what is the mystery of God and of the Father and of Christ, in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge? What is the great mystery? The great mystery, for example, you got to know from the Old Testament to the New what happened. You had a split in the nation of Israel, a scattering, okay? Only to be identified by the curses recorded in Deuteronomy 28:15-68, which describes, Deuteronomy 28:15-68 describes nothing but slavery and colonialism and loss of identity. Let me say it again. The curses of Deuteronomy 28:15-68 describe slavery, colonialism, and a loss of identity. That's what the scholar had put together in that little book he put out. When we lost our identity, what happened? We became Gentiles. African-American, Haitian, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mexican. Those are Gentile names. We are the Gentiles of the Bible that Paul went to. All right? Then what happened? We were promised a Savior would come and sacrifice his life for Israel and fulfill the covenants which was made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that this Savior would reunite Israel as kings and priests to rule the earth forever. Forever, ever, ever, forever. Let me give an example. Go to Daniel 7. Daniel 7. About this mystery. You won't hear this taught in no church. Daniel 7. Let's start at verse 22.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 22. Until the Ancient of Days came.
Until the time God came, read.
And judgment was given to the saints of the Most High.
The judgment that's going to be given to the saints is power. Spiritual power and glory. That's what it's talking about. First, give me who the saints are. Because right now there's a filthy Christian watching saying anybody's a saint. Anybody could be a saint in Jesus. Oh, shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. Read that.
Psalm chapter 148, verse 14. He also exalteth the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord.
So the saints are only the children of Israel. The saints are not Edomites, Moabites, Ishmaelites, Philistines, or Jebusites. Those are not the saints. Go back to Daniel.
Yes, sir. The book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 22. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom.
And the time came that the saints, the Israelites, possessed the kingdom. You won't hear no church teaching this. Go ahead.
Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth.
And that fourth beast began with Rome, ancient Rome. Go ahead.
And shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings.
This is what they call today the EU, the European Union. America's a part of that too. Go ahead.
That shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
So that another is the United States of America. He shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Write this down, write this down. America had to defeat the French. That was the year 1754 to 1763. America had to defeat the British, 1775 to 1783. And then America had to defeat Spain in the Spanish-American War in 1898. That's the 3 that were defeated. So read that part again.
And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them.
So the another is the United States of America. Read.
And he shall be diverse from the first.
Right, he was diverse. He was different from all the other kingdoms. Go ahead.
And he shall subdue 3 kings.
The French, Spanish, and Britain. Go ahead.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
Meaning lies. Speak lies against God. So the blasphemous words, these great words, which is blasphemy. God is white. Christ is white. For example, okay. What else? Christmas is the day of the Lord. That's the day of his birth. Immaculate conception. He didn't have no father. What else they say? Easter is the resurrection where you have a damn bunny rabbit laying eggs. And rabbits don't lay eggs. Can you tell a black Christian that? The hell is this? Halloween? The hell is this? Go ahead.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. And shall
same-sex marriage. I got to forget about that. Go ahead.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
How they wear out the saints of God? Slavery, colonialism. That's how they wore us out. That's how we lost our identity. Go ahead.
And think to change times and laws.
And think to change times and laws. Tonight's daylight saving time, right? Or is that tomorrow? It's tonight, daylight saving time. That's one of the laws. Another law. You know, in the beginning, they made laws. And when you check the history of when the beginning of the slave trade under Pope Nicholas V, they made a law forbidding any Israelite, the blacks in Spain and Portugal, from calling themselves a Jew. They made a law saying you cannot give your children Hebrew names. I've gone over that in Shout Out Tuesdays. Then they exiled them to the west coast of Africa and sent them into slavery. And then enslaved the children and forced them to be Christians. They made laws about that thing. That's why when we got to the Americas, they gave us the Spanish name Negro. That's a Spanish word. N-E-G-R-O, that's Spanish. That's a Spanish word. Why? Because Spain was at the forefront of the slave trade. And that term Negro was used originally in 1555, I believe it was. Yeah, around there, somewhere around there. Okay, read on.
And think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
350 years. That's time, which is singular, is 100. Times is plural, that's 200. And the dividing of time, which is a half, that's 350. Go ahead.
But the judgment shall sit.
Now, regardless of the white man doing all that to us, it says the judgment shall sit. We getting into this is the mystery. The judgment shall sit. Go ahead.
And they shall take away his dominion.
And they shall take away his dominion, the white man's dominion.
To consume and to destroy it unto the end.
Come on.
And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him.
Read that again.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven.
Under the whole heaven represents the earth. It's talking about the whole planet Earth. What's going to happen to the earth? Read.
Shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High.
The earth shall be given to the Israelites.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom.
Our kingdom's going to be an everlasting kingdom. Go ahead.
And all dominions shall serve and obey him.
Everybody's going to serve and obey the King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
That's right.
And we're going to force them to keep God's commandments. Every nation on earth. Go ahead.
Verse 28. Hitherto is the end of the matter.
Read that again.
Hitherto is the end of the matter.
Meaning that's what the whole plan and mystery of God is about.
That's right.
That's the mystery of God right there. That's his plan. Although we were destroyed as a people, we're going to get judged by God, given power and worldwide dominion. That's the mystery that no church want to talk about. Oh, we're included with Israel. Oh, no, you're not. My man, you're not included with. Hey, you're not included with Israel. All right? John Mark Reiser, you hear that? You're not an Israelite. Die, cracker, die. Let's go back to Colossians.
Yes, sir. Colossians chapter 2, verse 3. In whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And this I say, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words.
So Paul said, and this I say, lest anybody should trick you with enticing words. Because just as back then, as it is today, men will rise up with enticing words to lead you away from the mysteries of God, which is for the Israelites. Go ahead.
Verse 5. For though I be absent in the flesh, yet am I with you in the spirit, joying and beholding your order.
I love that part right there. Joying and beholding your order. When Paul and the apostles were establishing the churches, they had set up order. Give me that Titus 1:5, please. Sir. They set up order. It wasn't no everybody's the same, everybody's equal, that garbage of democracy.
The book of Colossians, Titus chapter 1, verse 5. For this cause left I thee in Crete, that thou shouldest set in order the things that are wanting.
So that was Titus' job, to set in order the things that are lacking. You see problems in the community? Set it in order. Set men in order that can lead and instruct and give solutions. That's what they did back then. That's what we're doing today. Go back to Colossians 2, verse 5 again.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 5. For though I be absent in the flesh, yet am I with you in the spirit, joying and beholding your order.
And they set up rank. When it says of beholding, they set ranks up in the church. There was no such thing as everybody's the same. That's a lie from hell. You don't even see that in society. When they say all nations are equal, then if all nations are equal, why is the black man always on the damn bottom then? And the white man's on top? See, they just lie. And we are, okay, massa, okay. Go ahead.
Joying and beholding your order, and the steadfastness of your faith in Christ. As ye have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk ye in him.
So we got to walk in Christ. Go ahead.
Rooted and built up in him.
Go ahead.
And established in the faith, as ye have been taught.
You see that part? Rooted and built up in him. To be rooted and built up in him means we got to start to study. And we can tell which brothers and which sisters study. We hear by your conversation. We know who's studying and who don't study. Give me that in, where's that? 2 Timothy 2:15?
Yes, sir. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightfully dividing the word of truth.
Rightfully dividing the word of truth, meaning what? You've learned to put precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. That's what you learn to do. Go back to Colossians 2 and 7.
Yes, sir. Colossians chapter 2, verse 7. Rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith, as ye have been taught.
You see that part? As ye have been taught. You know, it's only black people that say, you don't need nobody to teach you. The Spirit will come down and show you. Really? Give me that Acts 8:31. Only black people. This is why we're on the bottom of society, noted as the dumbest race on earth. Nobody respects us because we say stupid SH like that. No, you don't need to learn. So the Spirit's going to come on you. Really? Read that.
The book of Acts, chapter 8, verse 30. And Philip ran thither to him and heard him read the prophet Isaiah and said, understandest thou what thou readest?
So he asked the man, do you understand what you're reading? Watch what this brother says. Go ahead.
And he said, how can I?
How can I understand?
Except some man should guide me.
Except some man should guide me. Except some man should guide me. That's why in Colossians 2 and verse 7, it says, established in the faith as ye have been taught. Only the ignorant Negro says you don't need nobody to teach you. The Spirit gonna come on you. Yeah. Eats the rabbit and bunny eggs. Yeah. What's that? You ever just a dumb idiot talk about women can have a baby without a man with a Bartholin gland? Only dumb black people say stuff like that. Like, what the hell? Read on.
Go back to Colossians.
Yeah, back to Colossians.
Colossians chapter 2 and verse 7. Rooted and built up
so
in
if nobody
him.
need to teach, just leave a baby alone. And watch it just grow up. Don't teach it nothing. And let's see if the Spirit just going to come on that child and he's going to learn to read and write. He's going to know how to read and write and all that. Simple as hell. Go ahead.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 7. Rooted and built up in him and established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving.
Go ahead. Thanksgiving and rejoicing. Go ahead.
Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of man, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ.
Now, back then, as is today, we were warned back then, being warned today, to beware of any man spoiling us through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, meaning after man's thoughts, after man's concepts, after man's religions, after, can you put up the word rudiments? What does it mean? Can we look that word up, rudiments? Rudiments, Rudiments. Alicia? Okay. Put it on the screen.
The definition.
The first one, yeah.
Yes, sir. The definition of rudiment, the first principles of a subject.
So that's what the word rudiment means. The first principles of a subject. See, it says similar, basics, fundamentals, elements, or essentials. The foundation of. First principles, beginnings. So that's what rudiments refer. Read verse 8 again.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of man.
Let me show you the tradition of men. Get Matthew 15, 1-3. Matthew 15. Just for example. I'm giving you an example. And it's good to know the historical background behind the writings of Paul. What was happening regarding tradition. Go ahead.
The book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 1. Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders?
So these scribes and Pharisees, they had an established tradition already set up. Go ahead.
For they wash not their hands when they eat bread.
So one of the traditions was the washing of hands when you eat. Go ahead.
But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition?
So Christ came back and said, your traditions cause the people to break God's commandments. So to hell with your traditions. Now Christ is going to give an example of one of their traditions. Read.
Verse 4. For God commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death.
So that was the law. That was God's law. Honor your father and mother. What does it say? Honor your father and mother, and he that curses father or mother, let him die the death. You know what that cursing your father and mother means? Disrespect. Disrespect. Christ said, die, nigga, die. I know, see, that's not read in church. You know why? Because half the Christians disrespect and dishonor their fathers and their mothers. We're brought up like that. Then nigga ain't no good. Christ didn't die. But churches will never read that. Read.
Verse 5. But ye say,
here's their tradition.
Whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me.
So one of the traditions was when you came of a certain age, you could say to your mother and father, I'm a gift to you. Go ahead.
And honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free.
So they call that, what do they call that today? Esau got a law. You can emancipate yourself from your parents at a certain age. It's the same thing. That's what this tradition was, emancipating the children from the parents. So you get it, let's say you get to the age of 15, you can say, Mom, my life to you was a gift. By whatever I've done for you, that was a gift from God. And now I'm free from honoring you. That's what this tradition was. Esau calls that emancipation from, not proclamation, from your parents. Emancipation from your parents. Okay, everybody understand that? So this was a tradition. So let's go back now. Let's go back. Yes, yes.
I just want to make this clear because some of you brothers misread the scriptures. IUIC and IUIC, we don't teach disrespecting your father or your mother, even though they're not in the truth. What we're saying is, if they tell you to break the law, do not break the law. But you cannot disrespecting your father and your mother. Keep that in mind. That's what Christ is talking about.
Put that on the screen, Alicia. Thank you for looking it up. Read that.
What is emancipation? Emancipation is a legal process that gives a teenager who is 16 or 17 legal independence from their parents or guardians. Emancipation can be an important legal tool for certain teenagers, but you should give it careful thought before moving ahead.
So that's the same thing the scribes and Pharisees had. Emancipation from your parents. It's the same thing. What was going on back then during the time of Christ is still going on today. Still going on today. So, and I wanted to say this regarding honor your father and mother. It doesn't, because some of y'all in here are mulattoes. You know, mulattoes, half-breeds. You know, I'm just messing with you. And you ask, well, what about my mama? She's an Edomite. The Lord doesn't say honor your father and mother except if they're Esau. That stipulation's not there. I'm going to tell y'all straight, you still got to honor them. Ruth the Moabite still had to be honored. She was the great-great-grandmother of Solomon. Still had to be honored. I don't know if it's the great-great-grandmother, but I know she's in that line somewhere. So don't quote me on that. Y'all can look it up. So she still had to be honored. So those of you with Edomite mothers, you still have to honor them. You cannot disrespect them. Mama, you're the devil. Don't do that. Leave. And you know what? It'll be that same Edomite. There's a case. I ain't going to call no names. Brother said, you know, Mama Edomite and then brother had a baby. I said, bruh, believe me, she loved that grandchild. She's going to help you take care of that child. Sure enough, when the dude was down and out, brother, him and his wife, who came to the rescue? That Edomite mama. I tossed out. Aren't you glad you didn't go home calling her the damn devil the Bible speaks of? Now you need help, and she's the one helping you with your rent and everything. Y'all keep that in mind. Y'all keep that in mind. Anyway, where we at? Colossians.
Yes.
Back to Colossians. We were in 2 verse 8.
Yes, sir. The book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of man, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ.
So the philosophies, the vain deceit, the traditions of men, the rudiments of the world is not after Christ. These are man-made doctrines, man-made philosophies. They don't follow Christ. Read.
For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily.
You know what? Real quick, get me Isaiah 65 and 2. Isaiah 65 and 2.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 65, and verse 2. I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people.
That's us.
Which walketh in a way that was not good, after their own thoughts.
See that? That's what Colossians 2:8 is saying. Our people are so rebellious, we walk after our own thoughts. That's why we're the most disunified race on the earth. We are taught to be self-centered. Me, me, me. You do you, I do me. We're not united at all. We don't work as a collective at all. Okay? This is why we're downtrodden. We make up religions based upon what we think. Yep. God isn't against homosexuality. We make stuff up like that. Nobody can hear you.
There's a church in Atlanta that worships Beyonce.
You see that? I bet it's mostly black.
Oh, yeah, black women.
See that? Yeah. Black women? Oh, wow. See that? Walk after your own thoughts. And it says you walk in a way that was not good after your own thoughts. Okay? You keep walking after your own thoughts. Go back.
Yes, sir. The book of Colossians, chapter 2 and verse 9. For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily.
So Paul wants us to know that in Christ dwells all the fullness of the Godhead. Everything that's in the heavens is represented by Christ. That's the Father, the angelic host, the Word of God is all, fulfilled in Christ bodily. Read that verse again.
For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily.
Read.
And ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power.
Give me that in Isaiah 55 and 4. Isaiah 55 and 4. We can understand that Christ is it said, it dwelleth in him the fullness of the Godhead bodily. And we are complete in him. When we walk in Christ, keep those commandments in Christ, we are complete by doing that. Watch this. Read.
Isaiah chapter 55, verse 4. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and commander to the people.
So Christ is the witness. He's the commander and the leader. Right? That's why when it calls him the chief cornerstone, that means he's the commander. He's the chief leader. He's the king. Everybody understand that? Go back to Colossians.
Sure.
Verse 11, 2 and 11.
The book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 11. In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ.
Now let's delve into that verse right there. In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands. So what is that talking about? He explains it the next part here. He's describing it right here. In putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. So what does that mean? Ooh, I don't want to get too graphic. Paul is explaining you got to take off the sin. Here's an example in the Old Testament. Deuteronomy 10:16.
Yes, sir. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse 16. Circumcise, therefore, the foreskin of your heart.
Meaning the foreskin of your mind. Go ahead.
And be no more stiff-necked.
See that? And be no more stiff-necked, hard-headed, rebellious. That's what it means. Come on.
Verse 17. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, a great God, a mighty and a terrible, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward.
So, go back to Colossians 2 and 11.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 11. In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands.
Spiritual circumcision, which represents what? Read.
In putting off the body of the sins of the flesh.
So if you come in this truth, dishonoring your mother and father, an adulterer, a liar, a thief, a murderer, covetous, you got to cut that off from your mind. That's what it means, circumcision made without hands. In putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. So when you're in Christ, we got to have that spiritual circumcision, cutting off from our minds, lying, stealing, murder, dishonor, disrespect, adultery, things like that. Worshiping other gods. Everybody understand that? Does everybody understand? Give me 1 Corinthians 7:18. You can't just fall into grace. It don't work like that. I don't care what Creflo told y'all. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 18 and 19.
18. Okay, yes, sir.
This is what we read earlier.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 18. Is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised.
Let's deal with that. So the ones that was called that was circumcised were the religious leaders, those men and women that grew up in the law of Moses during that time. So is any man called being circumcised? Are you already circumcised? Then it says, let him not become uncircumcised. So what does that mean? Because you can't become uncircumcised. You know, actually, Esau does got that science today where they put somebody else's. Esau's nasty. They're the devil the Bible speaks of. But anyway, so what does it mean? Let him not become uncircumcised. Meaning, don't stop doing what you're doing. Continue in it. Don't stop doing all the laws and the covenants that they were brought up in. He said, don't stop it. You keep doing what y'all doing. Everybody understand that so far? Read.
Is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision?
Are any of you called in this truth being uncircumcised? For example, like the northern kingdom came in, they were called the uncircumcised. You also had scattered Jews of the tribe of Judah that were uncircumcised as well, raised up in Greco-Roman culture and customs. Go ahead.
Let him not be circumcised.
So what does that part mean? See, that's what people all see, I got to get circumcised. No, that's not what it's talking about. He's saying you don't have to follow the religious leaders and all that strictness that they were doing. That's what he's saying. Read.
Circumcision is nothing.
He says circumcision, the group that's circumcised, that's nothing. Go ahead.
And uncircumcision is nothing.
And this next group that's not circumcised, that's nothing. Watch the next part.
But the keeping of the commandments of God.
Here's the question. Is circumcision a commandment? Yes. Yes, it is. So that's why it said he wrote things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest. Because what would an unlearned Negro do? You will look at verse 19. I mean, verse, what is that? Where was that we just read?
Verse 19.
Verse 18. The bottom. Let him not be circumcised. See there, brother, I don't got to do that. I ain't got to do it. That's what an unlearned and unstable brother will do. And some of you listening right now online, some of that are some of you. We get the emails, some of y'all sitting in here. Do I really got to get circumcised? Yes. Yes. What verse was that?
Verse 19, sir. We're on verse 20.
Read 19 again.
Verse 19. Circumcision is nothing.
So you had Israelites that were circumcised. Paul said that's nothing. Go ahead.
Uncircumcision is nothing.
You had Israelites that were uncircumcised. He says that's nothing.
But the keeping of the commandments of God.
The point of circumcision and uncircumcision is keeping the commandments. But if you're circumcised, why aren't you keeping the commandments? No. Them circumcised Israelites were the same ones that said, crucify him, and let his blood be on us. Them same circumcised Israelites were the ones that said, you ain't got to honor your father and mother because of the traditions we made up. Them dudes was wicked as hell. They was wicked. Give me another. Give me Matthew 23:1. Start there. I'm showing you about these circumcised Israelites.
The book of Matthew.
That's those that was brought up in the law. Watch this.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 1. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
Right now, those are the leaders, Christ is saying. Go ahead.
All therefore, whatsoever they bid you, observe. That observe and do.
Do what they say, he says. Go ahead.
But do not ye after their works.
Why?
For they say and do not.
See that? They're hypocrites. They'll tell you to do something, but they themselves won't do it. That's why he said, that's why Paul said, we'll go back to 1 Corinthians 7 now.
1 Corinthians.
The one when he says circumcision is nothing.
Yes, sir. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 19. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of God.
Right. So I hope everybody got that so far. Let's go back to Colossians 2.
We used to scream black power while Heron was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. Iuic has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.